Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Enhancing Your MDM with Security Management. First, some notes. Everyone is on mute today. The presentation is being recorded, so a replay link and a copy of the slides will be emailed after the webinar. The webinar is hosted today by Brett Cooper and Patrick McGlynn. Brett is the founding partner of BlueFletch and also has been in the tech and mobility industry for over 20 years with companies like Coca-Cola and Accenture. Patrick is a well-known mobility expert and manager of systems engineering at BlueFletch. Thank you again for joining us, and I'll hand it over to Brett and Patrick.
Thank you for joining us. This week, I'm joined by Patrick McGlynn. We're going to be discussing one of the more common questions we get from people who are interested in the BlueFletch Enterprise. And that question is, why would I buy BlueFletch Enterprise when I already have an EMM license or EML licenses for SODI or AirWatch or one of these other popular EMMs out there? And just to add context to this, so let's say probably 95% of our customers are already using one of those popular EMMs such as SODI or Workspace ONE or Intune or Mobile Iron or 42 Gears. And there's a number of reasons that we'll cover here in this discussion of why people use this on top of those. And then also, just some of the deep dive into some of the more detailed nuances of how we create value for those. And before we get started, I guess just Patrick, maybe you want to give a quick primer on what BlueFletch Enterprise is for folks that haven't taken a look at our site yet. And you want to talk a bit about that, what it is, and why people use it.
Yeah, thanks. So BlueFletch Enterprise is a set of tools that we created to really supplement and augment those EMMs and MDMs that Brett just mentioned. And they're tools focused on the shared Android devices. And our goal is to really increase end user productivity and security while also reducing support costs for those big fleet of devices. So the big core component, the flagship tool, is our enterprise launcher, which takes over the home screen of the device and really opens you up for a lot of plugins and modules that can further enhance that user experience, control the device, and ultimately your security posture. There is a ton more out there that we're not going to cover today. So if you guys are interested, please check out bluefletch.com and check the product tab for more info of that full suite of offerings that we're going to highlight today.
Oh, thanks, Patrick. So I guess the first of the core differences, core reasons why people use us on top of their existing MDMs. And the first one is login and single sign-on. And there's a lot of sub pieces, but the biggest thing is the login experience. So we focus on a shared device. So user picks up a device beginning a shift and will log in. They get single sign-on into all their apps. They have application, they don't have to type in their password more than once a day. And there are certain pieces within the SODIs and AirWatches and Intunes of the world that support similar functionality, but for us, it's core of what we do, and our clients find a ton of value on top of that. But maybe, Patrick, you can talk about some of the key differentiators or value add areas within login and single sign-on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good point. Other MDMs and EMMs have their own solutions for login. Usually that is only to the point of check-in, check-out. So similar to how in at a library, you check a book out and you write your name down on a card. That's how a lot of EMMs and MDMs approach login. We take that, 10 steps further. And if you're going to check out a device, you might as well go ahead and have that user log in and create that single sign-on tunnel and cookie and token that you can capture and pass that to other apps. So it's a really unified and streamlined login. We also, in our experience, just working with large enterprises, we understand that each enterprise is different. There's a lot of, legacy systems out there that won't be changing anytime soon. So we needed to make our tools flexible for whatever identity provider a customer may have. So our approach to this is just leverage what identity provider you currently have. No need to reinvent the wheel. No need to, have some type of LDAP sync that's pulling over your user database every night into Workspace ONE. We go direct to the source, plug in, with what you already have, be that Ping, Okta, Azure AD, even legacy LDAP type of offline local servers. We can work with that. And our goal is, we don't want to be involved in that user management. We simply just want to give you the tools to enable your users to have a nice, clean experience on the device.
I think a good point on that is with that, and Patrick mentioned, but it's worth saying again. For BlueFletch, we go directly from the device, so the users are logging in; they're going directly to your IDP. So if your IDP is within your four walls, it doesn't have to go out to somebody else's cloud. You're not syncing. We have some of these other tools. I've seen them where they'll sync over 60,000 of your enterprise employee users and passwords and accounts over to somebody else's system, and that's just not something we're interested in. We're really focused on the security aspect, which is keep it inside your four walls. It's for us, it's a different way of thinking, but it definitely makes it a lot faster, and I think it makes it a lot easier to adhere to your company's security policies.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that, that just goes back to us being flexible. And another thing in that flexibility space is our dynamic role-based experience. So instead of having to, in days past, you would maybe create a config for a device that would be used by your cashiers and another config of a device that might be used by your receiving department. They use different applications. They have different, maybe even Wi-Fi connections, et cetera. Our approach to this is we want to have a true shared device in your company. So again, going back to integrating to your identity provider, we can pull data down, such as who you are, what roles you belong to, what groups you belong to, and then we can drive that experience based on those flags, meaning that each device ideally can be, staged the same. And then our launcher with, the identity provider integration is really going to give you that dynamic experience, almost as if you were, jumping on a Peloton and you're logging in and you get a customized experience that's personal to you on those shared devices. We try to bring a similar type of approach to the Android shared devices that traditionally have been kind of an afterthought for a lot of companies as far as, having a modern and, agreeable user experience.
Yep. And then I think another area, I don't know if you mentioned this, but is really around faster authentication or multi-factor. So one of the things that we've focused a lot on is during a workday, we understand your employees are putting their device down to either help a customer or perform a task. When they pick a device back up, there's two options. One is you let them get right back in. The other is you require them. A lot of these other guys require you to re-enter your password. For us, we have fast reauthentication, so we can use face rec to reauth. We can use NFC, badge tap, or you can scan your badge. Seen that with some of the airlines we work with. And then the other thing that's interesting, to take that even a step further, there's a new standard called FIDO. FIDO2 it's for passwordless authentication, and BlueFletch is the only tool set out there that supports passwordless authentication using FIDO2 on Android. So there's a couple other, there's some tools for Windows and a couple other systems, but when it comes to Android devices, we're the only ones to support that. And we've done some work with YubiKeys and a couple of other FIDO2 vendors out there, which is, I think in the future, you're going to see a lot more people moving towards passwordless just because it helps with workflows for the employees.
Yeah, and not to toot our own horn, but what Brett said, we have some really unique offerings on the market that are, leaps and bounds ahead of the other MDM, EMM launchers, they call them, that are really more of just a kiosk, a lightweight kiosk mode of devices. So really, again, flexible, fast, secure. That's where we're focused.
Yeah, so it's a good segue into the second point or second differentiator of why people put us on top of other MDMs, which is improving the security posture of devices.
Yep.
And I guess, Patrick, maybe you can when you think of security posture, what's your definition of security posture in an enterprise?
Right. So just, what you really want to think about what risk you have out there with all these endpoint devices and how you mitigate those risks as best as possible. And, what can be done to either limit access or provide just the amount of access needed for a user on the device so that nothing, unwanted gets outside of your network or your control. So we provide a lot of tools and features for ensuring that, just keeping a device as stable and locked down as possible. We see the need to run inside the four walls sometimes, especially with warehouses or retail locations that don't have good network connectivity. They want to run everything locally on their store servers or whatever servers they have running. That means no cloud access is required, and we support that model. We have many customers running that same model, and what that means is you're really limiting your exposure to outside network, but you're also you have much more control over your data. So we've built our models to support that. We also have a number of features that kind of go beyond just what the switching of users might entail. So not only do we want to clear app cache to make sure that app that is used by user A can't be seen by user B, but we can take that even further and clear app data. We can show or hide access to the recent app switcher. We can block or allow notifications. And we can really get to a fine-grained point where you have a solution that's really agreeable for your security teams, but also fits the needs of those end users and doesn't hinder them from their task at hand. One thing just to note with security is one thing that has been really well received is that our ability to enforce access policies already in place. With Azure AD, with Okta, et cetera, you can set different policies that are conditional based on a number of factors, such as who you are, what network you're on, what device you're on. And you can enforce different things, such as multi-factor authentication based on different risk profiles. Since we have that direct IDP integration, you don't have to reinvent those. You don't have to redefine those. We're going to actually just enforce what's already in place by your security team. And so that's been really well received, that, it's a direct tie-in and there's really no change required on our side at all to enforce that, those security standards at our organization.
Nice. Can you also talk a bit about device accountability or reducing device loss, like how we help with that, I guess in addition to what's already on the MDMs?
Yeah, definitely. Some device accountability, some MDMs have a check-in, check-out, which can, help paint a picture of who's using a device. Again, we're taking that 10 steps further. So we have information about who used the device, what activities they were doing on the device, what network they were connected to, battery level, location, what apps they were using. And we can really paint a much more, robust picture of the state of a device to try to track it back and see what happened, why that device went missing. We also have some more proactive tools to protect your data. So if a device leaves your network or leaves a geofence, we can lock that device down, put it in a complete lockdown mode until it returns to your store to re-enable its feature set again. And we want to protect any data that's on the device. We've even gone so far as to build a time bomb feature, which after a certain amount of time, the device will just actually wipe itself because, you may never recover that device, but at least your data, your applications, all that is your company's information has been wiped from that device. So We want to drive down the number of devices that do go missing. We do have some additional tools for finding devices that may be missing, including our device finder tool, which shows all your devices in your site. Again, that last known state information, the ability to send trigger alarms on a device. And some of the new features we're actually adding are the ability to locate that device with Wi-Fi 6 and augmented reality, actually, and overlaid on a camera so that you can see where that device might actually be. If it's on a shelf, if it's on the floor, we can point that device out to you and get that device back in a charger, back connected to the network, and back under management.
Awesome. Yeah, I think just to add on that a bit, one of the device finder, like we see a lot of devices that get lost even inside the four walls. So a device gets set on a shelf in a warehouse and is never to be seen again for the 2 years until somebody actually goes back up on that shelf and is pulling something from that area. So that's devices even lost within the four walls is a big problem. And then, I think with that device finder, one of the other things is we're cross OEM support. So whether you have Samsung, Zebra, Honeywell, Cypher Labs, Panasonic, Datalogic, we support all of those devices. In addition to supporting some of the newer technologies, I think Honeywell and Zebra both have batteries that beacons in them, so we can locate those and use those to help with device finding, all from a central tool. So it's definitely one is securing your devices, security posture piece. The other is keeping your devices from getting lost, which is can be expensive, and especially if they walk out the door.
Yeah.
The third area, Patrick, we talked about is just reducing support costs. So there's a lot of tools on the existing MDMs that help with support and data. What do our customers find? What are the justifications they have for paying, or how BlueFletch helps them reduce those support costs more so than what they would get out of the box with their MDM?
Yeah, so our support agent was actually the first tool that was created as part of this enterprise suite. And it was created for this exact reason. We've supported large enterprise deployments for over 12 years now, 14 years. And we had to support our own software and our own solutions. So we built Support Agent to bring as much data as possible from devices to a reporting structure. Instead of relying on, the MDM or MDM to tell us what is true, we actually wanted the endpoint to be responsible for that, because that's, as low level as we could possibly get for reporting. So, we find there's always discrepancies between what the MDM EMM is reporting and what the device is reporting, but we can use that much more rich device data to understand its state and how it's being used. And so that really helps with IT support teams that, are jumping into even a single device to troubleshoot, or they want to run a query across the whole fleet of devices and see what, how many devices may be affected by a problem. The advantages that we offered there is that we're extremely flexible of where that data goes, that analytical data. So you're not having to, run API calls against AirWatch to, pull data from their database. You can either run that, and you can view that in our portal that we have that data already compiled and put up in some nice dashboards, or you can pipe that data to an existing analytic or BI tool. We have a number of customers that go straight to Splunk or Power BI. They're using that for all their server monitoring, et cetera, already. So they might as well just tack on additional reports and cards to that. So that's super powerful, being able to see that fleet data at a much lower level with higher accuracy. So that can really help with those support costs. Also, understanding how a device is being used. We report on app usage, and that's turned out to be a super important report for a lot of our customers. They want to know how many apps are being used throughout the day, what apps are being used the most. what peripherals are being paired and used by each application, which user and what group that user belongs to, and what apps they're using. So, we can really start building out those reports and those stories because we have not only that device data, but also that user data to correlate it with. So all that to be said, I think the more data, the more analytical data, the better in our point of view. So that's why, we capture as much rich data as we possibly can, not only from apps, but from the Android operating system.
Yeah, I think I'll call this out again. You said it, but we can pipe data directly from the device to our customers' analytics source. So it doesn't need to go through a cloud. You don't need to have it stored on our server. So we do have a lot of customers that are they want very secured, everything inside the four walls, and we can go directly from a device to their local analytics tool of choice. We're not trying to tie you into our platform or anything else like some of the other MDMs do. I guess, Patrick, on the support piece, I know we also have, because we're locking the device down, we have our support support tool on the device. Can you talk a bit about that as well, the on-device support tool?
Right. So that's surfacing similar data, and
that's for end users, right?
Correct. And so that's Android application that is accessible by an end user. So a user can open that app. They can see a high-level rundown of their device, Wi-Fi connection, operating system, battery level. And then there's also the help desk component. So we have the ability for them to tap to one-touch call the help desk to submit device logs, more detailed device logs, or even open up a ticket with ServiceNow, for example. So, give the users the tools to support themselves instead of having to go to a store manager, having to go to a workstation or pick up the phone and call the help desk. We really want to bring all that support down to the end user and let them be a little more responsible for their own solutions. So,
yeah, they don't want to spend 30 minutes on the help desk. Call. No, it's definitely something we get a lot of feedback on. And then I think the last area on reducing support, so we have a tool we include called Playbook within the BlueFletch Enterprise tool set. Can you talk a bit about where we've seen customers use that on top of their MDMs?
Yeah, sure. So this Playbook MDM that Brett's mentioning gets probably the most traction when you think about the newer Android Enterprise management models. So Android Enterprise is kind of a new way of thinking of device management. It's leveraging APIs that Google has made available to do things like set security policies and push applications from the Google Play Store. That's great for those purposes, but for some of the more advanced configurations, especially like OEM functionality, like setting a Zebra Stage Now setting on a device, there's actually not a great way to do that with Android Enterprise currently. There are, you can do that, but it's honestly extremely cumbersome. And I've heard a lot of feedback from device admins that they do not want to have to support that with their fleet. So we try to bridge that gap and give you more, MDM, legacy MDM type of controls that can be supported via Android Enterprise. So that can be, things like file management, certificate management, pushing applications from an internal server instead of the Play Store, uninstalling applications and rolling back. All those complex, scenarios that may not be, what you first think of when you think of device management, but they're issues that come up when you do, true enterprise fleet management. We want to give you guys the tools to make that easier and help you support those devices a little bit easier at scale. And I know one really powerful way this, has been used by our customers is actually for device remediation. So you might have a golden image deployed out to a device, but oh no, like all of a sudden you've got a problem out in the field and you're not sure how to either roll stuff back or push an incremental change that's going to resolve your issue. So a lot of our customers have used Playbook for that exact reason. Be that push a stage now profile to change permission on the device, or I know, Brett, we had a customer that had a bad AirWatch certificate, and we were able to use Playbook to write that certificate and get connectivity back up to the cloud. So having those, fine-grained little switches and levers that can be pulled when the time comes has been well received and really helped support those big fleets that are already deployed and out there.
Yeah, another just note on that. One of the things, and there are legacy, I'm going to call them legacy devices, but there are Android devices that a lot of companies run that are still on Android 5 or Android 6 that, a lot of the more modern MDMs such as SOTI and AirWatch don't support anymore, or SOTI or Workspace ONE don't support anymore. And we can still support functionality on those because we're not running under the guise of Android Enterprise. So it's, I don't advocate running really old OSs. Make sure you patch your devices where you can, but sometimes a lot of our clients just don't have the ability to go out there and update 8,000 old devices without pulling them back in. So we're a stopgap in those scenarios as well to help with management of some of the legacy OSs. Definitely help. The core focus, as Patrick says, driving down the support costs and really how do you support those devices better out in the field and not have your support team go gray or pull all the hair out trying to figure out how to solve these problems. Out of the last category, which is probably one of the more important ones for a lot of the operations teams we work with, and that's improving end user experience on devices. For us, we focus on the shared workforce device. So we don't do iOS, we don't do Windows. We're really focused on a Android device that's used by multiple people in the workforce. Many MDMs or EMMs were originally designed for BYOD. So how do you secure a cell phone that somebody takes home, or how do you secure a Windows machine? And for us, that's not our focus. Our focus is shared workforce, which the user experience of a guy comes in, works a shift, grabs a device, puts it back. The next guy comes in. It's really, really important for us. So as Patrick, some of your points or thoughts around end user experience, how we differentiate there, and how do we create additional value on top of the MDMs?
Yeah. And just to, I guess, expand on that first comment you made around single user devices, I also think a lot of MDMs and EMMs focus more on, things behind the scenes that aren't apparent to the end user. They're concerned more about deploying apps and pushing profiles and reporting on that data. The end user, I think, really gets forgotten about a lot or becomes as a second priority. So I've noticed that there is not a lot of investment from companies around this with their launchers or their where actually the rubber meets the road and people are actually touching the devices. So we want to change that model. We've obviously picked Android as our platform because we believe that it is the platform for mobility in the enterprise of the future. If it's not kind of already the de facto now. So we're designed for shared Android devices, which means we're diving deeper into the Android stack and feature set as much as possible to bring what Google's doing around Android and all of their great improvements on the interface, and try to bring that into the enterprise as well. It also means we're able to go a bit more technologically deep and integrate in things like calling Android intents. I'm working with a customer right now where when they log in on a device, they want a certain application popped up ready to allow a user to pair their Pro Glove, their scanning glove. We can do really nice things like actually dictate the user flow of what happens when they log in, after they log in, what they're prompted to do. And we can do that all in a native experience, which means it's not only performant, but it's also going to be supported from all the OEMs across the board.
think another example I've seen along those lines, Patrick, is the experience of the state of the device. One of our customers has cradles that where you dock it, the cradles are connected to a screen. So it's and you cradle it, we detect that. We actually fire intents to start certain applications and change the experience on the device based on the context. The fact we know that it's in a cradle, it's going to be at a POS register. So open up the POS app, handle all that. That's, just makes it easy. The employees doesn't have to click around a clunky interface to find how to launch those things. They just happen, and then they make it easy for them to focus on their jobs, on the customer, and not deal with the device itself. And then I think another just thing around going deep in the stack would be, we have the ability to tie into scanners. So we have automatic contextual search. And then another thing that sort of ties deeper would be around motion lock. So we have a lot of customers where they have devices that are either in warehouses on fork trucks or in actual trucks out in the field. And we can do things such as detect motion, know if a device is going over a certain speed, and either lock it to a single app such as Maps, or blank the screen where they can't type while they're driving a forklift and creating a dangerous situation. That's, when I think about that, diving deeper into the Android stack, it's definitely, we've started to create a lot of value from that. And, they're always getting feedback from customers and coming up with new great features on the stack side.
Yep. That's great. And, just, I guess, kind of taking that even further or expanding on that some is, the Android stack includes a lot of, Android and Google features that are coming out with Android 12 and 11, such as, more consumer facing things, but such as widgets and notifications, and, heads up notifications and icons. So we're starting to bring those features into the launcher as well. Our enterprise launcher, being able to have a small widget that's showing your most recent notifications or emails that have come in, having badges on apps that have tasks associated with them that need completion, being able to switch apps quickly or search in your system for files and applications. Really, all those awesome tools that have been brought to the consumer space, we're looking to bring to the enterprise space as well. Have that really just sharp, polished look and feel that looks and feels like a device that you want to use and that belongs to you, versus just kind of a run-of-the-mill, device that has a couple apps on it.
Yeah, on that look and feel, another thing, we support different layouts, whether it's using the Gladiator glove style devices. You can do horizontal layouts for those. Tablets, we have different layouts you can set for tablets. We have foldering. You can structure apps into folders based on roles and who's using the device. It's really, back to that, how do we have a really good experience that the employees want to use when they come to work on the device side?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I think more recently, communications, I think, Patrick, is something we've talked to a lot of customers about, and you want to talk about what we're bringing to the market there.
Yeah, sure. So communications, we've already touched on a couple of concepts, but we know who you are, we know where you are. So our natural progression was, well, let's go ahead and pop up a place where you can communicate with other people. So our chat solution is actually being rolled out right now. And it's focused again, on the shared workforce devices, but we're going to, be able to put you into a chat space where you can communicate with your peers or your managers, do things like, telephony and video calls, lightweight, walkie-talkie style functionality, or even just text based chat to help you communicate with your workforce. So, that's, of course, as secure as possible. When a user logs off, we're going to wipe any of that chat history, and just really focus on trying to enable people to be more efficient and more productive with their tasks instead of running down and trying to find a manager or even having to carry two devices to do just one for communications. Let's bring that experience to your device. People are familiar with texting and calling on their personal devices. Let's give them those same tools on your enterprise device as well.
Yeah, and I just to put a couple more points around that. We've done integration with a lot of different tools. So be it Microsoft Teams on one side. Teams is it's a great tool for, I would call it like white collar workers. It is a bit over featured for people that are in a frontline workforce role. And then the other side, you get a lot of like legacy VoIP type tools. So Zebra has some really good tools around their Workforce Connect solution. Cisco has CUCME. There's also Zoom has started to roll out some VoIP type solutions, but we've really focused on there's a spot specific to enterprise workforce users that are the guys in the warehouse. 6 guys in the warehouse just need to text their boss and ask a question or do a quick walkie-talkie chat. They don't need all the advanced functionality you're going to get with a Microsoft Teams, or they don't need outside calling from a VoIP solution. So that's really the sweet spot where we're looking. And we've gotten a lot of customers who started using this, and it's just really simple enough without overburdening the end employee from an experience standpoint.
I'm excited about that one for sure.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing, I guess within user experience, we touched on a little bit, but just compliance and I guess privacy and compliance and policies, and maybe give like 1 or 2 areas where we provide additional capabilities around that.
Yeah, sure. So privacy is super important, and the European Union has even set forth standards called GDPR for data protection and privacy. So we have customers in Europe, and we've worked with them to make sure we are compliant. But in a nutshell, what that means for us is the ability to not have user information stored or reported or correlated with any events. So we've highlighted some of these features around who's logged in and who they are. We can actually disable that and have more just device level data, which can allow for greater privacy for your end users if that's something that's important to you, or that's something you need to be compliant with. With chat, that's clearing any chat history data off the device when you log out. We don't store that data in the back end that can be searched on later either. And we do have the ability to clear up data if a user is to request that any data that is captured about them needs to be cleaned up if they were to leave the company, for example. We support the ability to wipe all that data off in the background and provide your end users a bit more privacy than they might be accustomed to in the workplace.
Awesome. Patrick, thanks for covering this with me today. Just to wrap up and summarize. So if you have an MDM and you're questioning if BlueFletch can be of value on top of it, the 4 key value areas we can provide on top of existing MDMs. The first is just improving the login experience. So fast login, SSO, tie into your existing identity provider. The second is a better security posture. So how do you have additional security controls, whether it's the GDPR, CCPA compliance Patrick mentioned, or some of the other advanced security mechanisms we have. The third is reducing your device support costs. So having better support tooling, having better support data, keeping that data within your 4 walls. And then lastly, just the other thing that we're really, really passionate about, which is improving that employee experience. So having your employees want to use devices, having a good experience for them, making them more productive. It's really key for us, and you sometimes gets lost with some of the other tools that are more focused on the back end pieces. But for us, it's key and paramount. Patrick, anything else? Any other points I missed there?
No, I don't think so. Maybe just one analogy that we talked about was, purchasing a rugged device might be like purchasing a stock vehicle. But if you have, if there's a purpose in mind for, say you are a construction worker and you want, a locking toolbox, you want, a bigger fender that's more durable, steps on the side, any of those accessories that are going to help make your day-to-day just a lot more enjoyable, more efficient, more secure. That is kind of how you can think of BlueFletch. We're gonna have a lot of tools that you can just attach on that are just gonna, delight the end user. They're gonna make it easier for you to manage. They're gonna make these devices, honestly, they're gonna make them, more reliable, more stable over their long term. So it's a great investment. It's gonna just really improve everything we've talked about today, from end user experience to security.
Cool. Thanks, Patrick. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. As always, feel free to follow up with any questions. And if you want to reach out to us directly, you can reach us at info@bluefletch.com. Thanks again.